Okay, we seem to be live on YouTube. I'm pulling up my work. See who filters in tonight. I'm testing times a little bit to see what works, but I think for now I'm going to stick with 7:20 normally, but just had a lot going on today and figured I would test 8 p.m. to see what it's like, but we will see. I'm only streaming to YouTube tonight because I'm going to be showing a lot of models, and sharing the screen is much nicer. And if I am showing the models the entire time on Instagram, then I have my phone in front of my computer and I can't see my models. So it doesn't really work. I can do it for a little bit of a stream, but the entirety of a stream, it kind of gets not great. I wish I could stream OBS to Instagram. If anybody knows how to do that, send me an Instagram message and please tell me how to do it. But, okay. So, there's a few things I want to talk about tonight. To anybody who is, tuning in right now, if you haven't yet seen my interview with Nico Meyer that I uploaded today, it is right here on my channel. I think the thumbnail turned out pretty cool, honestly. Like, I just couldn't decide on what to do. Like, thumbnails are tough. They're much tougher than, like, you'd think. I mean, some of these are decent, but they're just like screenshots. But for the interviews, I want to do something always like a little bit nicer. But I think that one turned out pretty good. And I didn't want to alter his art at all. That's like was very important to me, because it's his art. Like, I didn't even want to stretch any of the structures because that changes it, and it's his. But yeah, definitely check it out. Um, it was a great talk. We're definitely gonna have him back. Um, and we talk about all kinds of things. Talk about all of his models, his sculpture work, uh, a lot of his mathematical virtual models, and we go through his Instagram and we look at everything, and it was awesome. He even recently made one that was a snake, and it was very cool. It was a good time. As my computer kind of freaks out because I'm processing too much, but um, maybe 8 p.m. is not the best time, but we'll see. But yeah, I wanted to go over some models. Tonight, I wanted to show you guys what I'm working on. I showed the Discord recently. I'm trying now to link the quantum mechanics that I've really nailed down. Like, I have the quantum like pattern really, really dialed in, I think, more so than probably even current quantum physics. That doesn't mean I know the mass values and everything like that, before everybody freaks out. But I definitely think like I've got the overall pattern and the reason for the pattern pretty understood. But now I'm trying to link it to relativity a little bit. And what I did was I took equals mc squared and I put in constants for c, which is the speed of light, or which is the speed of causality. It should be c. I always wondered why is it c? It's c because it's causality. That's what it's the speed of. It's not the speed of light. Otherwise it would be L, but it's not L. It's c because it's the speed of causality. It's the fastest anything can happen within the realm of relativity. And then m is mass. So I basically have whole numbers. Just taking a drink. I've been talking to family and friends all day long, so now talking on here, it's like It's a lot for my voice. But you have energy and mass and c, which everybody's like, it's the speed of light. But energy is represented by an e, that makes sense. Mass is represented by an m, that makes sense. But the speed of light is represented by a c. Why? Because it's causality. I didn't even realize that till just now, to be honest. But that makes perfect sense. So basically what I'm doing is I've made it so that I can mess with these numbers. So I can put a 1 in there, a 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And I can see what the values are for E and all these other, various, I guess, I don't know, permutations or perspectives that are generated. And one of the things that I got that was very interesting, and this is why I started focusing on this, is when I was looking at this, what I realized is that for E, I'm getting 729 when I input 9 for the mass and 9 for causality. Okay? So this is force, this is action, action squared, energy. So that's when you start to make a measurement of these, values. So on the 9th, which makes perfect sense, there's a 9-dimensional event essentially for every that is observed by every quantum of consciousness or quanta of consciousness, or what I also have started calling like the Halonic function, essentially. And so this number, though, is interesting because what it is it's 9 added to 720, and 720 is the number of degrees of rotation that the fermions and therefore the universe goes through. And we know that because it lines up with this. There's 720 little squares in this model. And it's measured in physics already. So this 729, though, is interesting because it's just 9 added to that. So when I was looking at these, where is it? Spinner cubes. So I have all these like cubes that spin information. And let me just make sure this is going well. And then we're going to talk about Deepak Chopra at some point. Is this not? It is public. Huh. Models and math. Weird. Definitely, I don't know how to alert people. I guess you can alert people on YouTube when you're changing schedules. I do it on Instagram always. But like I just feel like nobody checks like the little update things. So I never bother doing it. But I gotta figure out with people what they actually pay attention to. But what this is this is showing spinning of information. So this is 90 degrees, this is 90 degrees, this is 90 degrees, 90, and then 90, 90, 90, 90 within that. And you can count that there's a count of 4 and a count of 4 within. So it's basically, it's very similar to the Great Pyramid. It's 8 really, but it looks like 4 from, subjective perspective. This is, inside, outside, separate oneness, essentially. But when you sum these, you get 729, as long as you include 9 in the center. Another time that you get 729 is with this spinner cube right here. So this goes 1, and then 2, and then 6, 18, 54, 162, 486, and has a sum of 729. So this is relativity manifesting. It is this, my beaded lizard is hungry and she's like clawing at the cage to tell me she's hungry. So that's what that noise is. But this is the manifestation of how things move, because everything is moving in a vortex. That's what space-time is. It's a vortex of a fluid, essentially. And this is showing the calculation of that, of the building of information that forms that vortex. And so the fact that this is 729 and this is 729 means that there's something very important about that number. And this is 729 right here, too. I mean, it's fascinating. Like, when you follow these symmetrical patterns, you end up with 729 always. If you have a starting point, which is almost like this is the Holy Spirit, this is the Father, or this is the Father, and then this is the Son, and then this is the Holy Spirit, essentially. So this is the mathematical and logical constraints that the system has to abide by, that God has to abide by. This is creation within the Creator, which is God. So that's basically how this breaks down. And it's 729. Let's check that number. If that's prime, I think it's prime. I think I've checked it. But if it's prime, that's very important. It looks like I've checked it. It's an odd composite number. It's not prime. Interesting. My neighbor's playing piano. I love it. Okay. But what's interesting about this is, like, we can see all these different aspects of this number. We can see it visually here. We can see its, triality to the sixth. 7 divisors. That's interesting because there's 7 yom, or periods or days in a week, or periods of creation, essentially, leading up into, us. There's more than that. There's 9. But, I mean, you could even say that there's 10 or 11, but you're starting to deal in breaking into the next aeon. But this is a very interesting number. Even the fact that 364 is the Elquat sum. That's almost 365. And look, the deficiency is 365. So I wonder, like, how many days in a year? It's always 365 usually. 1 year is the time it takes for Earth to go around the sun. 52 to the 7th is only 364, and we all know there are 365 days in a non-leap year and 366 days in a leap year. Therefore, there are always more than 52 weeks in a year. Interesting. So there's always one more day than 52 weeks. That's profound when you understand, when you see those values in other places and where I do in my work. It's profound that is the way that it is. But it makes perfect sense. Obviously, there's no coincidences. But the fact that this is 52 times 7, I think, right? Isn't that what it basically just said? Yep. Okay, so, and then there's one more, which is like summing it all. That's always the way that it is. It's like, you see that in my models as well. There's always like one extra, and it's leading you to the next, whatever it is, step, year, anything. Interesting. So this is the type of work that I'm doing to try and link these objective structures to relativity. The structures of multiplicity to relativity. And I'm not as versed in that, and it's less so about patterns and more so about equations. And so, E equals mc squared is the equation, but still, I'm sure it's more complicated than that. I'm not a physicist, so I'm learning. But the fact that it already lines up with this essentially, which is 720 when you include the first and the last, 720 plus 9, which is what it's made of, so basically that. Then it starts to link, you can see that it's starting to link relativity to the structures, the equation of relativity to the structures of quantum mechanics. I have no idea how physicists claim to do this stuff, but they don't, because that's why they're trying to still find the theory. But or how they, I don't know how they think it should be done, but this is how it would be done. You're basically looking for linking patterns and symmetries. So like 729 and 729 and 729 and 720 plus 9, which is 729. Once you see something like that, you have to pursue it. And I definitely think I'm onto something. And I kind of discovered this by accident. And this is an interesting spinor cube. So it starts with 9, and then 9, and then more 9, and then 9. But what's interesting about this spinor cube is that the sum is 66 and the count is 33. When I checked that, I was like, dang, what are the odds? And the average is 2. Like, God gives 33% of his energy to creation. He's left with 66% left over. And that is creator and creation. That's 2 beings. The average is 2. The count is 33. The sum is 66. There's a lot to be learned in this that I can see the potential in it, but I have yet to dive deep into it. But it's very interesting, spinor cube. But I'm trying to link that structure to all my structures to relativity, and I think I started figuring out how to do that with the number 729. I've already linked my quantum of consciousness structure, or my holonic function, to the structure of DNA, which is another objective structure. And where is it? What are you guys able to see? Where is this? There it is. Okay, there's only one concurrent viewer. That's fine. Interesting. Okay, I just want to see if you guys can see the sums and the counts and everything like that, because it's at the bottom of the page. But I know there's one person viewing. I don't know who it is. Oh, wait, no. We just jumped up 3. So if you're a regular, say hello. Sorry we started late. I wanted to test 8, and it was a good day to do it because I had a lot of just like personal family stuff that I just had to accomplish, chores and things like that. But let's get back to this. This is just a working session. Like I said, I uploaded an hour and a half video to the channel today. I would that is probably more valuable for you to watch than this. This is just me, talking and answering any questions, showing up, and just thinking. But looking at some models. You know what would be interesting for those of you who are here, or for anyone who actually shows up and sees this stream, can look at my old models. I think this was one of my first basically just documents to show where I was logging my work. So this is very, very, very like early work. This is years old, like 5 years old, probably at least. And it is very disorganized and not as refined as it is now 5 years later. But you can see I was trying to basically map the levels of consciousness. So it was like dust, crystals and stars, plants and corals, fish, rats, reptiles, mobile animals, tool use, some primates and birds, humans, written language, collectivized knowledge, technology, complete consciousness, God, true enlightenment, pure reason. This is actually still a count of 7, but it's not nearly as refined as what I have now, which is hadrons, atoms, molecules, cells, organisms, families, castes, technological singularity, or technology. But you can see stars and crystals, plants, animals, humans, perfect consciousness at 5. I was just trying to figure out what were the objective levels. And I was getting there a little bit here, but I was also failing, as you can see. They're a little bit arbitrary. And like you can see, I was trying to understand universal truth, the laws of robotics, because as I've said before, this is about it was originally about trying to understand artificial general intelligence. I haven't looked at this in years. This is about the 10 Commandments. So I had deduced the 10 Commandments, most of them, not all of them, but most of them, when I was trying to think about like what does society need in order to maintain peace. And I realized I was deducing the 10 Commandments. And I decided to learn more about the 10 Commandments. And I am going to do a stream for you on the 10 Commandments very soon, probably this month. And that will be awesome. It probably won't be live because it's going to be very well put together and stuff like that. But I'm going to review Dennis Prager's 10 Commandment series on PragerU because it's great. But I was trying to understand differences in race through like dogs and versus wolves and the incentive structures of them. Okay. Look at some of my first models. There was some serious stuff here. Particles, atoms, molecules, cells, organisms, family, caste, nation, universe. This is old. But like I was on point with this. I didn't even know what I was doing. But it worked. This is when you can see I started nailing it down a little bit. I started realizing that there was a pattern, and I was trying to map that pattern on every single level of this. It's like researching scripture there. That's like not as... It's not schizophrenia. It's just, ask things about scripture. But this was me. I first started doing this. Look, I didn't even get it to be what it was yet here, where this is a 4, essentially. Now it's 33. There you go. But you can see here, I got it. This was like when I first got it. Fascinating. I literally haven't looked at this in years. It's like when people are like, oh, not rigorous. It's like, dude, this was great. This was when I realized that there was 14 in this perspective, which this is 1, and in this perspective, which is a sum of 42. You can see I'm trying to map that United Quantum Force Assembly. I started realizing spin sequences and size, and you can start to see that the models look a little bit more like what they start to look like now. The objective fields of study. Fascinating. Quantum model. This was when I was learning quantum mechanics. I was basically like trying to map in these other levels of consciousness as well, these other particles like atoms, molecules, cells, you know, things like that. But that's not the way to do it. But it was a good idea. Oh man, I don't even think I had made the verse. I think this was basically the first time I started making that cosmological verse. You can see I realized it was chiral. It's like, whoa. And I don't even think I knew that that was like a thing. But you've got solids here, liquids here, gas here. This is very old work. Electron is equal to light. It is and it isn't. It's really not. It's I know photons are light, but I was trying to figure things out. We've talked about this. This is 42 versus 33. I really started to nail it down here. Legit. Look at this. Babylon. This is Babylon, guys. The separation of languages is not about Spanish versus English versus French and Hebrew. It's about these languages. I tell math people all the time, I'm like, I'm not fluent in the language of mathematics. They're like, the language of mathematics? What do you mean the language of mathematics? How do you not know the language? Like, your math is a language. You speak a language. If you're saying things like, well, when you take a 2-sphere and then you have a 3-sphere and you have a 1-sphere and then you have a curvature tensor on it, and then you project that into, four-dimensional hyperspace, it's like, that is a language. It's like speaking Spanish to most people who don't speak Spanish. You have to learn that. But I was starting to realize, like, this is an aeon. Particle, atom, molecule, cell, organism, family, caste, nation, universe. Yeah, I'd gotten it at this point. Legit. It's cool to look back at your old work. Like I said, this is very informal. I put an hour-and-a-half video up today. That's much more worth your time than this. I'm just going to be here for questions and to talk a bit about Deepak Chopra in a minute, and Baby's Babel and Babylon. That's what I called this. This tab is called Code of the the AI Superintelligence. This is like that objective thinking code that I told you was like my first model. Just trying to understand the theological traditions. This is reptile stuff. I like design cages on Excel too. For anybody who's interested in reptile stuff. Eventually I separated it out and I had a different document for my personal projects versus my work. But this was very early on. I didn't at the time. Like this was so new. Unity theory names. Oh my gosh, this is awesome actually to see. Like, you remember I told you I was like looking at all these different names and I just kind of gave up. Top picks. See what it was. Singular assembly theory. No. United conscious force theory. That's pretty decent. Give that like a green because that's probably the best one. Other options: singular conscious assembly theory, assembled quantum force theory, quantum assembly theory, united force theory. This is the best one, but it's still not that, which is just like, that's the one. Crazy. This is what I thought was good ideas. It's like, of course, these would never catch on because this one's close to describing the essential nature of existence, but using the word conscious is it's a very loaded term and people don't understand it, and it's just it's a little vague. Sentient is not vague. Yeah, I realize this is Babylon. Artificial divisions of being and fields of the study of being. Yeah, they're totally artificial divisions, but they're not really artificial divisions. They are objective periods, but they're not divisions. Like, any more than, a caterpillar is separate from a butterfly. It's not separate from a butterfly. It's a specific and objective period of growth of a butterfly in its life cycle, but it's not separate. Same thing with these. There's nothing but God. Okay, let's see what questions people have, if any. I can't see the sums. Hi, Tyler. We don't see the sums. That's fine. I've been listing them out. But howdy, new Negentropic Phantom. I don't know how to pronounce your name. Heavy Equipment. What's up? Esteban. Ethan. I don't know you, Ethan, but welcome. Yeah, I'm just basically going over like my old work and taking a look at it right now. Like this was what I wanted to call the theory. It's crazy how it's good to save your work. Like I never was somebody that liked saving my work in or showing my work in math because I didn't want to show my it's not that I didn't want to show my work, it's that I didn't want to show my work the way that they wanted me to show my work in school. But you have to show your work like for the sake of yourself, not for the sake of others to check you. They can check your results via experimentation and everything like that. But I never understood, why do you need to understand my work as the teacher? Like if I get the right answer, I clearly understand. But especially if I consistently get the right answer. But I need to understand my work, which means you have to write it in whatever language makes sense to you, not what language makes sense to your, teacher in school. So always clashed with that. But this is, so I showed my work for the sake of myself. Crazy. Old school theory of everyone. wasn't even called, there was no theory of everyone at the time. I didn't even call it a theory of everyone, like without the zero and, you know, branded and whatever. Like it was just, I was just like, I think I found the theory of everything and I need to just try and map it. Or I found the perspective necessary that shows you the theory of everything. And that's what I was doing. So I was trying to describe the theory of everything given the perspective that I had found that shows you it. It's not that, you know, in a flash I knew it all. It's like in a flash I realized there was a perspective that if I looked at the world at, it was leading to objective structures that were logically deducible. And that's very different than most other, um, you know, structures. Crazy. Anyways, back to my current models. Way cleaner. Look at that. But I need to make a new document, anyways. Actually, I started, but the the work that's really hard to move is the stuff involving primes because there's so much data in dealing with primes. Um, this is like something I made that deals with the differences between primes and the differences between those differences. I still can't even tell you that I completely understand this, but I can definitely tell you that there is a beautiful, objective, symmetrical pattern going on here, and eventually I'll understand what I discovered, but I have no idea really yet. Um, this prime difference chart, I wrote, I think when I posted this, I said, some work must be understood before it is created, and some work must be created before it is understood. It's like this is one of the latter. But when you're dealing in prime numbers, it's so much data. This is not, I mean, I have primes up to 1,000,000 on a different sheet, but this is primes. This is almost 10,000 prime numbers that I'm looking at, which I can't have primes up to 1,000,000, which is not 1,000,000 primes, but primes up to 1,000,000. Uh, I can't have that on this sheet with all the rest of the models. So what I think numbers basically is trying to like deduce what numbers mean objectively, given where I find them in my work. So 0 is infinity, 1 is singularity, 2 is creativity, because creation is when duplicity is created, multiplicity is created. 3 is generationality, 4 is stability, 5, I'm calling it reactivity, but I can't tell you that it's as defined as these first 4, which I really know that these are correct. This one, don't really know. This one, don't really know. This one, I think it's sovereignty. That I'm pretty sure about that actually. And 10 is definitely totality, or it's infinite oneness is really what it means, but that's totality. And 11 is duplicity, which is interesting because 2 is not duplicity, it's creativity, but 11 is duplicity. It's you're seeing like a symmetry there, because to be creative, to create a second consciousness when you are oneness of consciousness is to duplicate. So there's like a symmetry going on between 2 and 11, but obviously that makes sense because 1 and 1 is 2. It's super literal. So I was like, here I'm trying to map like this. I was trying to map like this 4 social forces. So if there's 4 physical forces, gravity, electromagnetism, strong force, and weak force, then I assumed that there were 4 social forces. One of them is government, one of them is culture and media, one of them is the nuclear family, and the other one is hedonism, essentially. Like, or it's not really hedonism. It's more like Instincts. It's like your instincts. The four primary perspectives: oneness, separate, outside, inside. So there are, these four primary forces in everything that come from these, but there's four physical forces. Obviously, we know them. And I think that there's four social forces as well. So these are all dependent. You can't have something that's separate from oneness. Oneness is inherent. Separateness is created. And if something is separate, then from oneness, then it is got to be inside of oneness. If oneness is existence itself, that's just like logic, because where else is it going to go? And then outside and inside are dependent, because if there's an inside, then there's an outside, and that outside of separateness is oneness, essentially. But that took so long to realize that outside of separateness is the definition of oneness. Because I'll say, like, inside means separate and oneness. Outside is separate from oneness. Separate is outside of oneness. And oneness is outside of separateness. Like, that last one is tough. I only got it like probably 2 months ago. But I thought I had it for years, and I didn't, I don't think. Like, what did I have it as in this? Oh, I guess oneness isn't really defined here, because there's oneness within and oneness without, but it's not oneness, in and of itself. Yeah. But that was tough when I was working on that. I had like Paulina helping me. I was like, these are the three options. Which one is best? Is it outside of separateness? Is it separate from separateness? Those were the two main contenders. Separate from separateness, or outside of separateness. And I ended up going with outside of separateness. But interesting. But yeah, like, this is a working session, like I said, guys. It's very, very casual. I just wanted to show you what I am working on, kind of get a view into my mind a little bit, which looks like a chaotic, insane mess on, spreadsheets, but that's what it looks like. Awesome behind the scenes of your work. I'm glad you like it. I would like this if somebody showed me and I was like super into their work. Yeah, this is like behind the scenes. Speaking of primes, I looked into Crown Sterling after hearing you mention it. It seems everyone but you on the internet is calling them a scammer. Of course they are. Of course they are. They call me a scammer. They call anybody who says that the universe is primarily consciousness a scammer. Robert Edward Grant is mathematically and geometrically brilliant. Confirmed. It's impossible to deny if you understand mathematics. And I would bet my work on Robert Grant's competence. That doesn't mean Robert Grant is perfect or doesn't make mistakes. Of course he makes mistakes. Of course he's not perfect. Nobody's perfect. Everybody makes mistakes. But to call at the beginning of Brian Keating's podcast that I'm listening to currently, which is right here, I'm listening to this talk with Deepak Chopra, and everybody always tells me, "Okay, Deepak," like it's some kind of insult to me, and I've never really listened to Deepak before, and but I decided to and see what he has to say. We agree on a lot, it seems. I'm a little more structured in like my definition of consciousness, but he's much closer to understanding reality than our current physics departments. But Brian Keating in the beginning of this tells Deepak Chopra, "You are called terrible names constantly by academic establishment." And Brian Keating, to his credit and his bravery, um, which is commendable, he said, "I think that it is wrong that you are called these things, and but you're called a pseudoscientist, which is the same as calling somebody a scammer. You're called a fraud, same as calling somebody a scammer, and it's anybody who's really, really ahead of the rest will be called a scammer. Like if you look up Clee Irwin, the first thing that comes up, one of the first things that comes up, actually looks like he's doing a great job with making sure that his links come up above Rational Wiki, which used to be the top of the page. Rational Wiki is a horrible website. It's irrational wiki. It's literally the opposite of what it claims to be. But I'm not even going to click on it because I don't want to boost its search algorithm. But like this is all you need to see. This is how it starts. It's like Clee Irwin does extremely rigorous work in physics, but they call is a pseudoscience proponent. What does that even mean? It means nothing. Like, what is pseudoscience? Pseudoscience is what people who call other people pseudoscientists believe is science. That is the reality. That is the closest thing to pseudoscience that exists. It's that whole, like, I think Hitler actually said it. He, or Stalin or somebody. It was like, accuse the other side, or it might have been Goebbels or something. It was like, accuse the other side of that which you are guilty of. But there's deep truth in this that's beyond like a strategy, a propaganda strategy. The deep truth of this is that this is what we do inherently. We accuse and project onto others what we view as what our subconscious knows is true about us is what it is. So what God knows is true about you, you will label others. So if you call other people pseudoscientists, God knows that you actually don't understand science. Have you heard of Bernardo Kastrup? No, I have not. Yeah, that's my thoughts on people calling Crown Sterling a scam. It's not a scam. It then doesn't mean that it works perfectly. I don't know. I think I believe that Robert Grant is competent. I would not bet against Robert Grant unless I really understood something that he was saying that I disagreed with. But from what I can see, it does seem like he did crack something profound. But I'm not going to bet my life on it. I'll bet my life on my work, but I'm not going to bet my life on Robert Grant's work. But I will say I know for a fact he's very competent. And but everybody thinks he's a scammer because he talks about sacred geometry and astrology and consciousness all the time. And I've talked to Robert Grant a lot, and he has, and him and I, we talked about like Nassim Haramein, how Nassim Haramein is trying to to some degree, like, if you see, like, and this is not ripping on Nassim Haramein, everybody's trying their own strategies for getting their work seen as legitimate, and I'm for everybody trying their strategies. But like, you see Nassim Haramein is always like wearing a lab coat. I'm like, why are you wearing a lab coat? But in instances where you wouldn't necessarily probably be getting like dirty in a lab, and it's probably like, I don't know if it's for to to seem legit, but it certainly like does add the visual aspect of legitimacy to him, when you're just looking as an outsider. So I'm not saying it doesn't work. Probably does work, and I'm not saying that he's doing it on purpose. I'm just saying that's like a potential strategy that he may be doing. I'm not going to attribute motive, but I wouldn't be surprised. And that Robert Grant basically said, he's like, I'm done playing the games of academia. I'm not going to try and appease them at all. I will literally just ignore them and go about my work. I was like, that makes sense. But, I was thinking the other day, there's this famous picture. Picture of famous physicists. This is it. This is a super famous picture of like the best physicists that, have been so far. I mean, some of them that we call physicists. Einstein is in here. He's right there in the center. I think Schrodinger is in here. Picard, Planck, Curie. I think Dirac is probably in here. Heisenberg, Bohr. Like, these people made physics. And Eric Weinstein said, we don't have this today. And anymore. Like, there is no these guys. And I disagree. I actually think we do have these guys. But the thing about it is that I will check out Castro on the stream, actually. Bernardo Castro. We'll look at him in a minute. But these guys there is a group of like these guys, and who they are is people like Eric Weinstein, Stephen Wolfram, me, Nassim Haramein, Tom Campbell, it seems, Chris Langan, and maybe Deepak Chopra. Like, there are people who Clee Irwin, who are making profound discoveries. Robert Edward Grant, who are the new these guys. And guess what's so funny is not a single one of them. The only one who kind of bridges these guys and the guys of today, which is Roger Penrose, but he's so old that he's almost like these guys. But everybody else that I mentioned, all of those guys are not physicists by academic, like label, other than I think Stephen Wolfram. And he doesn't even use physics that much in his physics work. I mean, he does, but it's more about computer science than it is even about like what physicists think is physics. He links it to physics, but it's done through, cellular automata and computer science. So it's just that the physicists of today are not these guys, but the ones who are the actual physicists who are not actually like accredited physicists like me and everybody else that I mentioned, we are like these guys. Not like trying to like brag or anything like that. That would be ridiculous, because you don't get to choose whether or not you are good at this, because it's all about perspective. And when you understand that, you can't take credit for it. It's also not about IQ, because I'm way better at, the understanding reality than people with much higher IQs than me. And it's because it's all about perspective. So you can't take credit for your perspective because it's given to you by God. You can take credit for the amount of work that you do to try and understand. So like you can see, I've done tons of work throughout the years. But that's like one, I say often, like I've said before, take 1/3 of the credit for, at maximum, for where I'm at today, and then I give 2/3 to God. It's like that. If you do that, You can't really be uh like gloating. But and plus, like, when you really understand everything, you understand that everybody is equally valuable. So it's just society that places, some people as more valuable than others. That's not true at all. There is not a single person on earth that is more valuable than any other person, and if there is, only God knows. We don't. It's literally impossible for us to know. But this guy, Bernardo Kastrup, philosophy of mind ontology. Yeah, this guy gets it. The philosophy of mind. I was listening to Michio Kaku earlier, and he actually was saying some good stuff. Like, he was basically saying that philosophy, and so did Brian Keating, they both basically said philosophy is the science. And it is. It is. But and philosophy is the study of perspective. I've never heard anybody say that other than my philosophy professor in college, who I definitely will reach out to pretty soon. But like, everybody else said, like, Brian Keating described it as something else, but not the study of perspective. And it is the study of perspective. That's the best way to put it. I don't know why that's not like really like objectively stated. But this guy, what does he say? Where's like a... see here. Ontology of idealism, according to which universal phenomenal consciousness is all there ultimately is. Yep. Everything else in nature being reducible to patterns. Yep. Of excitation. Yeah, exactly. Every particle that we see is an excitation of a fiber on a fiber bundle. That's what it is. Garrett Lisi described it as that, and he's totally right. Excitations of a fiber bundle. The thesis key challenge is to explain how these seemingly distinct conscious inner lives of different subjects, quanta of consciousness, such as you and me, can arise within this fundamentally unitary fundamental field. Along the way, a variety of other challenges are addressed, such as how we can reconcile idealism with the fact that we all inhabit a common external world, why this world unfolds independently from our personal volition or imagination, why there are such tight correlations between measured patterns of brain activity and reports of experience. The core idea of this thesis can be summarized thus: we, as well as all other living organisms, are dissociated alters of universal phenomenal consciousness, analogously, wow, these are some words I don't say very often, etc. The core idea of this thesis can be summarized thus: we, as well as all multiple disjoint centers of subjectivity, are called alters. I like that term. I like it probably better than quanta of consciousness, but holons is pretty good too, though. It's just a holon. We and all other living organisms are surrounded by the transpersonal phenomenal activity of universal consciousness, which unfolds beyond the disassociative boundary of our respective alter. Gosh, reading philosophy out loud is really, it's like a sport. The inanimate world we perceive around us is the extrinsic appearance, the phenomenal image imprinted from across our dissociative boundary of this activity. The living organisms we share the world with are extrinsic appearances of other alters. Yeah, exactly. This guy, Bernardo Kastrup. This is what I mean. So many people have got it. But maybe we should be calling them alters. And I will give up the term quanta of consciousness. Like, I don't care about that term. I care about the term sentient singularity because I think it's very important because it describes the essential nature of the being that is existence itself. But I mean, it's not an ego thing. But, you know, I admit that quanta of consciousness is like a little bit clunky. So maybe we call them alters. That's fine. Or holons. Interesting. Yeah, this is exact. I mean, he uses a lot of words that I use too, like extrinsic. I'm very about extrinsic and intrinsic. But what I don't think anybody has realized has mapped. They've realized it, but they haven't mapped it. I think I mapped it. Is this where it says all there ultimately is consciousness essentially, and patterns of excitations of this consciousness that form self-reflections within that consciousness. That is what a holon is, or an alter, or you or me, or atoms and molecules. Nobody else has done like this as objectively as me. I don't think. Like, I made this very, very simple. Simpler than I think anybody else has made it. And I think it's correct. But it's hard. This is very hard to see. I understand why nobody else has done it, even though this is remarkably simple. I mean, this is very simple. And this is all there is, guys. There's nothing other than this little chart. Now, to describe the functions that make up all of these things, that's where you get into my other models. But this describes, not mathematically or anything like that, but in just like, you know, an overview. This is an outline of existence. There's nothing other than this. But this would be like, so that's it. And it's very hard to do this because like people, like, they're not looking for casts. Okay, like they're not looking for that being part of this structure. But of course it is, because like, how else do you get technology? And most people in this field that reach, you know, a certain level do realize that we're moving towards a technological singularity, which is what we're also in. We're in like a simulation, but it's not a simulation, it's a replication, more accurately. But I think that this is objectively mapped. But it took me a while to get that. Like, I didn't just do it, you know. Like, you can see here, this was me trying. I actually like made progress there, at that point. But this was a lot of work. It took me a long time. Here, you can see this is like earlier. Called them particles instead of hadrons. I hadn't realized that hadrons were the particle that was here. Force point is a quark. And what I call a particle here is a hadron. That I hadn't really realized it yet. A nation is technology, essentially. It's better to just call it technology. But I was thinking about it uh, biblically and from the perspective of politics, because that's kind of what started this project. Babylon, Artificial Divisions of Being and the Study of Being. I was like trying to map what would cause World War III or what would it be like, because I was just concerned, like I really realized that democracy was dooming us, guys. Like it was, that's a scary thing to realize, that we're just doomed. But here you can see I was trying to map the levels of consciousness here. So it's like, what is ownership? So technological superintelligence is at the top. This is all within God, but technological superintelligence is within the God, is at the top of the creation tree. Humans are below that. Animals are below that. Plants are below that. And land, I put below that, but that would be like molecules. And then atoms below that. But I hadn't even reached that yet. I was trying to map this very early on. This is literally like 5 or 6 year old work right there. I was like realizing that, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, the mathematical order of operations was corresponding to how we perceive things. So it's like trying to map it. Universal truth. Pre-singularity, tech is a parasite of humanity. This sounds like post-singularity, humanity is a parasite of technology. Sounds like Chris Lankin almost on Twitter. But what is the benefit of humanity to AI? Like, I was trying to figure out artificial intelligence, guys. I was trying to define morality, the order and reasons for goals. Like, this is very early on work. I'm much more defined at this point. It's like looking at all the isms: Judaism, Christianity, organism, Buddhism, Islamism, hedonism, communism, capitalism. I was like trying to understand, humanity. Crazy. I clearly saw like this. Robert Grant did a post recently. He said that zero 0.9 repeating infinitely is actually 1. And that's true. But it's actually true that 1 is also 0.9 repeating from a creation standpoint, but from a objective standpoint, it's just 1. So it's a superposition of 1 and 0.9, infinitely repeating decimal. Robert Grant did a post on it recently. It was perfectly accurate. And I saw that 5 years ago. He did the post like last week. I'm sure he thought about it, probably before me, but he's been at this for years longer than I have. But I did independently realize that this was 1, and that 0 is also equal to 1. But this is equal to 0 because this is infinity. It's 1 dividing infinitely. Crazy. Anyways, let's see what. any of the diehards that are on tonight get to see the behind the scenes of my work. He is friends with Deepak. Campbell has spoken fondly of him as well. The guy gets it. Bernardo Kastrup, that guy is, one of those guys in that physics picture that I showed, essentially, it seems. Yeah, Rational Wiki is garbage. It's such garbage. It's such garbage. It's irrational wiki. Start looking into dissociative identity disorder and see if there's anything that catches your eye there. It's where he derives the term alter. That's fascinating. So we're just we all are suffering from dissociative identity disorder, but we're God, but we're suffering from dissociative identity disorder. That's fascinating. You skipped the one line where he mentions did. I did? Oh, wow, I did. No pun intended. Other living organisms are disassociated alters of the universal phenomenal consciousness. Should capitalize this. Analogously to how a person with dissociative identity disorder did manifests multiple disjoint centers of subjectivity, also called alters. That's fascinating. How did I miss that? We and all other living organisms are suffering from did. Weird. That makes sense. Is the top line conscious considered information? Could it be reduced to bits? Yeah, this is. Oh, now Nero is saying woo. I don't know if you're joking around now, Nero, but if you're being serious, sometimes woo is a little true. That's what I say to Nero in the chat. Actually, a lot of times woo is a little true. Doesn't mean all woo is true, but there's a lot of woo is true. And woo doesn't, people say like, oh, that's woo, as if that means anything. It doesn't mean anything. It's like saying that's pseudoscience. It's like, that doesn't even have an objective definition. Neither does woo. So you were asking about this. Unconscious directed reaction, conscious directive action. So this level, a particle level, the head level, the quantum level, is informed energy. And then this level, the body level of multiplicity, the wave level, you could say, because it's a wave traveling through multiplicity, directed by singularity. Just like you are singularity, you are this human, but your cells are this. And then your cells are this, and molecules are their this. And then for every molecule that's a head consciousness, its body consciousness is an assembly of atoms. And then every atom consciousness, its body is an assembly of hadrons. That doesn't sound like woo to me. That sounds like physics. But when you move your arm, you are directing action. So like, and you're causing force. That's why you're moving your arm. So you're creating force through energetic, because you are energizing information. And then your moving of your arm isn't basically like, the cells in your arm are moving when you move them on an almost unconscious, directed, reactive level, a wave consciousness, a body consciousness. directed by your head consciousness, which is your mind, your humanness, your personhood of, being who you are. And that is, consciously directing action. So at this level, it's informed energy, and at this level, it's energetic information. So it's switching. So here, the emphasis is on informed, the interpretation of information. Over here, the emphasis is on energizing that information, putting it into change, putting force behind it to cause change. And a force point, which is a quark, is an assembly of information and energy, which is an excitation of a fiber bundle. Which is like basically when the fibers on a fiber bundle cross, kind of. That's what it means. So like depending on which fibers cross, you'll get a different particle. So here you'll get a gluon. Here, if it's these two fibers, then you'll get a photon. If it's these two fibers, then you'll get a, quark. A quark would be a little different, but than a boson, but still. I think Wolfram said that in his work it suggests it's like bosons. My lizard is like freaking out. Sorry about that noise. Hillary, stop. I have a venomous lizard that's called a beaded lizard named Hillary because she's a dangerous reptilian. And to any of you who get that, you're probably laughing, hopefully. But basically, she's very loud right now. Interesting. I was just thinking. No force is change, also right. Inaction is action. Inaction is not action unless your inaction is in opposition to what would be the unconscious reaction. So like when the mob is all doing something stupid, it's like when everybody's like, oh, if everybody jumps off a bridge, are you going to jump off a bridge? If you're in action at that moment, that's an action. If everybody jumps off the bridge and because somebody told them, CNN told them to do it and they did it because they weren't paying it, they were letting somebody else think for them. And you were like, no, I'm going to think for myself. I'm not going to jump off the bridge. In that moment, yes, inaction is an action. But inaction is not always an action. An action is that's conscious, that's not a reaction, is one in which you are the leader of it. So if you are not the leader of it and you're just following your instincts, or you're just reacting to other people, or you're just letting institutions think for you or something like that, that is a reaction. You're not, that's a non-action almost. But there isn't actually an inaction. There's just reaction and action. Inaction is how we describe it in relativity, but in objectivity, there's just reaction and action. And action is when you are making conscious choice to do something, and a reaction is when you are responding to instincts and incentive structures around you and letting that be your thinking. So I don't know what you mean by no force is change also, but inaction can be an action kind of in that situation that I described. Are you into dog training at all? If so, what methods do you use? Dude, if you understood dog training, I would ask for your help because my dog is kind of becoming a bit of a nightmare. I was into dog training and my dog was very well behaved. And I used to take her to the dog park, and I tried taking her to the dog park last week and it failed miserably. And she just wants to get into staring contests with all the other dogs, which always turns into a fight now. And I don't know where this came from, but I'm going to have to contact dog trainers. One of the things that I did realize, though, is that dominance, I was trying to describe dominance once years ago, and I said dominance is about the controlling options. It's about controlling the degrees of freedom and constraints and setting the constraints that someone else has to follow. It's about controlling space in a way, because space is what provides you with those options. And that can help you with dogs. So like dog training, like if your dog is being bad, don't hit them or anything like that. That doesn't help. But control the space. So like move to where exactly they're standing so that they're forced to move. That kind of thing will reestablish your dominance. Now, from that on, I can't like tell you how to get your dog to get along with other dogs. I think it just boils down to, experience in a good environment, and also, some training techniques that I don't know that I hope to learn, because I want to take my dog to the dog park again. Like, it sucks that she's ridiculous at this point. Like, she'll see another dog at like 100 yards and she'll just stare into its soul. This is my dog, by the way. Her name is Maya. I'll bring her on the stream one day. I went to the dunes this weekend for an engagement shoot. I took these photos on my phone, but this one Paulina took. We also had professional photos taken, but these were not professional photos. But it was awesome. I was like blasting the Aladdin soundtrack as we were driving through it at night. It's pretty funny. But where's my dog? There's my dogs. This is Paulina's dog Noah, and this is my dog Maya. And she's very friendly with people, but not friendly with other dogs. This is my mom, is a beast. I don't know if I can show a gun on here, but that's her shooting an AR-15 for the first time. That's what being a man looks like. This is my dog. Being insane. She's just playing here, like, but she's a Malinois. Like, they are very impressive and a lot to handle, and they shed a lot, which is honestly the worst part about them. These are my dogs. She's very friendly to people, but I can't tell you how to, like, it depends on what kind of training you're doing. I can maybe help you, but I can't do anything really impressive right now. Two great philosophers, Jordan Peterson and Dennis Prager. Candace is like blowing up. I know she's got a new show. She's got a baby. Like, she's gonna be like the next like the right-wing Oprah. It's like, I've never seen somebody rise so quick to prominence. I don't like to use the word fame, but basically fame, than Candace Owens. It was like the fastest rise I've ever seen of anybody. But yeah, that's my dog. Those of you that don't know my Instagram, you can go follow me on Instagram or not, but this is my personal Instagram. It's public. That's my dog. It's a lot of dog to handle. But I love Malinois. They're great dogs. They're just very, 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 very high energy. They're like on cocaine all the time. That's like leadership. Good dominance is good leadership. Yes. I can talk to you about it on Discord. I've gotten pretty into it. Cool. Yeah, that would be so helpful. But I'm gonna contact like trainers, because I want her to be able to go to the dog park and not attack other dogs, not be a fool. She used to be good. I don't know what happened. When's my wedding? It is in um I'm actually going to live stream it, so like it makes sense to kind of just say it. It's on July 14th. That is my wedding. I'm gonna live stream it to all my media platforms. Not the whole wedding, but the ceremony. So you'll get to see it if you want. I think it's good to be public about that kind of stuff. It sets a good example for people and for other people, and like especially now that we can really save the entire process. And if you live stream your wedding to the world, it's very much a public affirmation of your vows, essentially. I think that's just a good thing people should do. And it also allows for people to donate to, your down payment on your house or something like that. Not saying you have to do that, but I'll probably have a link. But I think that should be like a cultural thing that we do. It's like when you see somebody who's sick or something and you make donation, or somebody shares like a GoFundMe. It's like, my friend was in a car crash, like I really need, it would be really great if you helped. I donate to those things all the time. And not everyone I see, but if it comes from a friend who I know that what they're sharing is verified, like I'll donate. And like that crowd, using your community is very important. No man is an island, as much as I wish we were. And like we need to find ways to, I've spoken about it before, to make marriage a profitable financial decision, not a costly financial decision. I have not figured out how to do that yet, but I will say, do not go into debt for a wedding. I am going into no debt for my wedding. That's like the one cost limit that I have. I know academia has gone to shit, but ask whatever trainer you contact for their educational background. Modern psychology has made huge strides in dog training. I believe that. I don't doubt that. Yeah, exactly. Why not have a Zoom wedding so everybody can see it? Plus, like, I'm running and I actually have to call a friend at 10, so I have to get off. I have like a hard stop, but that friend is a friend that wants to come to my wedding and isn't going to be coming to my wedding, and I have to tell him that on the phone after that. But there's people that make the cut and that don't, like when cost is a thing, and also when the current situation of the world involving illnesses that I won't mention on live stream because I'll get kicked off. That and also just like, I think that if you're going to live stream your wedding, then you should also focus on having the people that are there be like a very intimate, close group. You don't have to posture to the neighborhood by inviting the neighborhood. You just have your family and very close friends. This is part of what I think we need to do in order to reduce the cost. And then you can live stream it for everybody else. And, women can show the world how beautiful the flowers are. And you can show the world, that you committed to another human being. I will definitely watch your wedding. Awesome, Esteban. I appreciate that. I want people to watch it. I think it's good for people to see. I want to, I know you retracted the message. Like, don't feel bad about that at all. I'm going to share it because I want people to see it. Like, I would watch, people's wedding who I've, keep close contact with in their content. It's like, I speak to you in private conversations on Discord all the time. I would watch your wedding. That's what I'll say. But yeah, it's I think that's going to become a thing. I think it should become a thing. It solves so many problems, and it also opens up potential opportunities to change how we approach weddings financially and stuff like that. and socially. You shouldn't invite people who you you know, if you've never met them, do not invite them to your wedding ever. And but like we literally do that kind of thing, or at least we have for a long time. It's like, you know, your cousin, your third cousin, who, you know, I your parents do that. They're like, you know, your third cousin who you've never met or you met once, you know, when you were 3, like you should invite them. No, you shouldn't. You should send them a Zoom link. They can watch it on Zoom. But helps keep the cost down. You don't have to go into debt. Like that is the one thing. It's like if you're gonna like know what is the one budgetary, that lizard is freaking out over there. So sorry about the noise. But uh if you're gonna know like the one financial thing that I've learned from this process is do not go into debt. And I did not. And like I'm very, very glad that I am refusing, because that means that even after your wedding, you have to worry about paying off the bills of your wedding. That sounds like a horrible feeling. Even like, don't put that kind of, you know, feelings on it. Feelings matter. It's not just woo. I'm just scrolling through my Instagram. I'm just chilling with you guys, to be honest. I don't really have anything else to say other than watch my interview with Brian Keating. It's great. We're definitely going to have him back. And like, uh, when I think it would be very cool to work with him on a project. Here's his Instagram, by the way. We'll look at that. Not Brian Keating, Nico Meyer. Eventually, I'd like to have Brian Keating on my show. I don't know if he'd come on, but he's a friend of mine, so he might. But he probably thinks I'm pretty woo, so I don't know. But he did just have Deepak on, so who knows? But like, this is awesome. We talk about how he made this on the stream, why he made it. Talk about this, which is a hop vibration, which is the mathematical structure of a consciousness, essentially. It's a mind. Talk about his giant sculpture of a hop vibration. All kinds of things. Trefoil knots right here. I love his music. It's very like, it just reminds me of nature. But he does some genius work. Eventually, I will also put out a a episode about this guy who I did interview as well over the summer in a phone interview for like an hour and a half, but he won't let me post it just because he is a private person. But he wants me to make an episode about him. This is Anton Baker. The inspiration to Nico Meyer is mainly MC Escher. Anton Baker, his mentor, his mentor's mentor was MC Escher. I wish he let me post that our phone conversation because it was awesome. And maybe one day I'll be able to get him to come on our stream. This structure right here is my favorite structure that he's produced. I'm pretty sure it's basically like the universe. I think he actually like sent me. I don't know where it is. Hold on. Let me see this. See something. I gotta go into my computer though, so I'm hiding screen. Not that there's anything, but I don't know what is in my giant list uh, of bookmarks. Probably nothing interesting, but people people go to insane lengths to you know figure you out on the internet. It's very weird. Like when they found that flag that kept being like stolen, and 4chan kept like tracking it down, and I think it was even like Shia LaBeouf had like put it up, and then 4chan took it down. That was like the craziest thing. They had used like weather patterns and stuff to find out that person where the flag was. Hmm. Anton Baker sent me a bunch of links that I'm trying to find and show you guys. Let's see here. Well, most of my links are like job related. Um, man. Sorry, I'm not finding it. That sucks. I'm gonna have to find it on another stream and show you guys. But Anton Baker sent me interactive like uh like 3D renderings of his um actually I have it. I know where it is. It's in our messages. Got it. Cool. Found it. Look at this, guys. View full screen. How do I... make it move. Um, yes, I did a Harry Potter reference. Here we go. Here they are. Look at this. He sent me all of these. I need to go through and do a stream where like I can manipulate these in 3D, which I don't know how to do, but it used to work. Maybe he disabled it because it was just you can't have it, be working for all of them because oh, view animation. Okay. Interactive. It's loading. And let's bookmark this. In a minute. Why is this taking so long? Yeah, this one, I guess, doesn't have the ability to go interactive. Here we go. It takes a while to load, but look at this. So now we can interact with the structure entirely. So he made this. His mentor was MC Escher. So like look at you can like spin it and look at it from this perspective or like this. You can go inside it. You can go inside it. I'm trying to figure out how to do it. There we go. You can kind of like just spin around. It's fascinating. But I definitely need to do a stream and show you guys all these things that he sent me because bookmark this tab. I just showed all my bookmarks. It's fine. There's nothing there. Like somebody once asked me, they said to me, they didn't ask me, they said to me, Tyler, you shouldn't post who your fiance is, like, because I said I was going to live stream my wedding. They were like, the fact that you post your fiance and tag her, and then you go and you say controversial things online, like you're doxing your own fiance and yourself, like that's not good internet safety. And it's like, I have a Belgian Malinois and an AR-15 like within arm's reach at all times. Like, don't talk to me about safety. People were like, oh, that's not good internet safety unless you're remaining anonymous online all the time. Don't be anonymous online. If you think you need to be anonymous online, and I understand the drive, I understand. Like, I've been there, where you want to discuss ideas and you're involved in groups that, like, would, I don't know. I've spoken to, like, people that are labeled white supremacists constantly online, but you gotta just be as impeccable with your word as possible. And if you're not being impeccable with your word, then that's actually when the need to be anonymous online enters. Kind of. I mean, I'm somebody who wants their job to be to share their ideas, so that is different from somebody who doesn't want their job to be to share their ideas, because that person maybe does want to maintain some degree of anonymity, but still, you should be proud of the things that you say as much as possible. Or not proud, but, able to defend. And that doesn't mean you can't say things that are true. You can say things that are true, but you have to say things that are true in a kind manner. And then if you get, the mob comes after you, then, oh well, like the mob just came after you. But if the mob comes after you because you said something in a malicious manner, that is something not to be like. You shouldn't have anonymity online just to say mean things. That's my point. Based. Yes. Currently reading MC Escher's book. his and Roger Penrose's work on tiles has very similar aspect sequences. Yes, it does. How you unfold sentient singularity theory, starting from one. Yeah, it's very similar. I realize that too. Um, a clicker positive reinforcement training is, in my opinion, the only way you're going to solve your dog park problem. Interesting. We're gonna have to talk about that more, like in a call, because I don't know. Like, I try and bring her treats, and she loves food. Like, no, like you, she finished. I had to get her one of those bowls that slows her down from eating. But uh, if I offer her food when there's another dog around, she could care less that I'm offering her food. I could put a steak in front of her face, but if there is another dog, she'd rather play, have a staring contest with the other dog. It's crazy. I think the dog alone should scare off most crazy basement dwellers. Exactly. And if they're not scared off after my dog, then I'll shoot them. Like, just to be honest. I mean, hopefully not. But if you break into my house, that is what you risk. People who are like, that's not good internet safety, those people aren't taking personal responsibility for their safety. I will look into clicker training more. Um, people do clicker train lizards a little bit, monitor lizards. Monitor lizards are kind of my specialty in reptiles, actually, which are the smartest of the reptiles, very mammal-like. And there's this guy on YouTube, and he trains minks. Like a mink Argus monitor. He trains minks to hunt. Where's the mink man? This guy, Joseph Carter, the mink man. Like, and so he's training this lizard, which is basically like a reptilian version of a mink.
This oceanside verb
is about to become the backdrop. Oh my gosh. Ads are so annoying. That's a Malinois. That's what my dog is right there. She looks like a German Shepherd, but she's not. She's just got the hair of a Shepherd. But this is this will grow to like 5.5 feet to 6 feet long and be as thick as like, like a Sumerausaurus calf. I don't know. Like it's a big lizard. There's a baby. A Komodo dragon is a kind of monitor lizard. They're the biggest lizards in the world, the smartest lizards in the world, and they can like hunt like you don't even understand. Here, watch this video. I mean, minks are very impressive, but this is like very close to a mink. Where is raptor? I used to have this exact kind of lizard. Let's see. Yeah, here, look at this. I was so impressed. He's training this lizard to be like with, clicker training and all this stuff. And most lizards would respond to it, but not to the degree that like these would. But watch how fast this thing moves. It's like their abilities are on another level. Watch this. It's basically just walking through the grass or the bushes, and it finds a mouse, and watch how fast this thing just catches this mouse. They have a forked tongue, so he can smell that there's already a mouse around, just like a snake can. Here. Dang! Like, oh my gosh. Monitors are so impressive, it's ridiculous. Like, that guy didn't even know there was rat in there. And that's a wild rat, too. That's like a kangaroo rat, like, not like a domesticated rat. I'm not going to play it anymore because they'll kick me off the stream because it's violent or something. I don't know, but it's those monitor lizards are insane. Like they're like mammals. They're I used to like have mine chase me around the house when I was a teenager. I'd like dangle food and just run, and it would just chase me. Oh, he's that guy is like a genius animal trainer. He trains minks. Minks are not easy to train, and to train an Argus monitor is actually probably easier than a mink. Like I trained my Argus monitor, but not to that degree. Yeah, it's the one with the kangaroo mouse. You knew exactly which one it was. That's funny. Clicker training with dart frogs. I'm not surprised. You can like dart frogs click and make sounds that are pretty similar to clickers actually as their communication. So they do this. It's like that's makes sense. Um, oh, okay. I'm gonna play that real quick and then I'm gonna go. Um, that a video of you clicker training in Discord DMs. Let me block the screen real quick just because I know you sent me a bunch of stuff, but I haven't read it yet, and just because I haven't had the time, but I will.
Touch.
Okay, let's come back to share screen. Let's see.
Spin.
That's good.
Spin.
That's pretty funny. I wonder what it is about the clicker. Like,
Down.
is it just something that you only ever use and in a positive reinforcing like way, and then that's the difference between it and your voice is your voice is used in all kinds of situations, clicker is only used in a specific situation. I don't know, you probably know, but that's very good. Like I wish my dog was like that. My dog is good when she doesn't see another dog, she's good, but when she does, then she's out of control. And she wasn't always like that, like I said. I've been watching his progress. I always think a hawk or something is going to get him. Yeah, I think about that too. But if he keeps feeding that lizard, in less than a year, that lizard will be 5 feet long. If he feeds it enough and gives it enough heat, you can make him. You could bring that lizard to 5 feet long in like a year and a half, and then you don't need to worry about a hawk getting it. You need to worry about it getting a hawk. But yeah, I'll definitely talk to you more about clicker training because I'll probably order a clicker actually tonight and see like as the start because I actually have been talking all week uh, and weekend about just taking steps to train that dog because we tried to go to the dog park last week and it was just a failure. But anyways, I said I would get off by 10. I am going to keep my word. I appreciate everybody being on here, kind of just behind the scenes looking at old work. Check out my interview with Nico Meyer. And it's awesome. He's definitely going to come back, and we'll do that again when he has, and he can probably help us with cool projects. He has, if you watch the video, he talks about some projects that he wants to do that are like community building, and they're really good ideas, I think. So, voices used in a non-training situations, conversations fluctuates. Yeah, exactly. That's what I figured. That makes sense. I'm going to buy a clicker, and then we can talk about it. What do you think of the ultimate hunting monitor would be? An Argus monitor. Exactly the one the guy chose. That's just a baby. Like, look at this. This is what it grows to be. Like, they're really cool. They stand up. I have like amazing photos of them standing up like meerkats from Frank Rita's, who's like the best monitor expert in the world. He's like my mentor in reptiles. But this is how big an Argus monitor can get. Like, that is a huge lizard. And when it's that big, it can hunt pretty much anything. Like, that is something to be trifled with. It's definitely the best hunting monitor because they're the most food-driven monitor. There's not even a competition. There's nothing that comes close. There's no reptile in the world that is as food-driven as an Argus monitor. Nothing is like it. I don't even think there's any, other than I don't even think my dog is as food-driven as an Argus monitor. All right. Good night, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. I will see you tomorrow at probably 7:20. I think I'm going to go back to this 7 or 7:20 time. Probably eventually move it up to 7, but it'll probably be around 7:20 tomorrow. And then we will have Discord on Thursday and then Sabbath on Friday. But take care, and I'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Peace.